back to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, my friend Richelle Plett is with us. Richelle is a seasoned interior designer who has created not one but two courses to help you, her designer colleagues, be more knowledgeable and capable when it comes to specifying, designing, and selling upholstered furniture to your clients. Her proprietary course, Upholstery Uncovered, which mirrors her book by the same name, teaches you how to identify and analyze upholstery, construction materials, and methods so you can make informed decisions on your client's behalf. And her second course is one that I'm going to be telling you about after the interview, so stay tuned for that. Richelle was nice enough to send me her book, and when I read it, I was sold. Having experience in selling upholstered furniture and here and there over the years, I could see that if I had this information, had the expertise that she shares in and she explores in her book, how I would have been in a much better position in all of those conversations about quality, style, wearability, comfort. These are the things that your consumer is looking to you for, right? To be the expert. So regardless if you are new or seasoned, if you source upholstered pieces and you sometimes struggle with how to sell them, especially when you can't have your client do the sit test, then you are going to enjoy Richelle. Hi, Richelle. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, LuAnn. Thanks for having me.
I'm happy to have you on the show, lady. I am just so impressed by you have taken something that has been a skill set of yours, and now you are spreading the love, teaching your expertise and your skill set to your fellow designers. And I learned about this when we were having dinner this past spring with some of our besties in High Point. And we got to talking about your book, Upholstery Uncovered. And then you sent me a copy of the book, and I just thought, whoa, Richelle, beautifully done, like technically beautifully done. And then the content was, not fluff. Like I am such a critic of, okay, I just read 5 pages and I have yet to learn anything. And you just said the same thing over and over again. And I was super, super impressed about this body of work you put together. And so I was like, okay, now we have to tell everybody about it, Richelle.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I'm really proud of the book, and I'm really very pleased that you enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And of course, you see, there's a lot of things in interior design that I, from my experience with WindowWorks, don't cross over. But of course, I have sold reupholstered. I have sold reupholstery to clients many times. I've even dabbled here and there when it was the perfect exact right opportunity in having custom furniture made for our window treatment clients over the years. And so it was like I was reading it, I think exactly, well, you'll tell me, but I feel like I was reading it from the point of view what I expect is your ideal target client, somebody that has an opportunity to sell new upholstery or reupholstery, has probably a tiny bit of experience in it, probably has done it successfully. But in my case, I was like, didn't know half this stuff. Now I can actually do a much better job at it.
Right. Well, it's told from the standpoint that you do know maybe a little bit, although it doesn't make it difficult if you're coming in completely blind and you've never sold upholstery before. But I've had students that had no understanding, clear through those that have been in the business for 30 years. And
Mm,
everyone has learned something, because truly, this is not anything that is taught this in depth in
right.
school. And honestly, there's no reason that they would do it. It's things you pick up through the field, but those mistakes that happen can be costly if you're
Yeah.
not aware.
No,
So,
I really like I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I consistently was thinking, "Huh, I kind of knew that, but I didn't know why." Or
mhm,
that's interesting, and I can use that now to be anytime from a sales standpoint that I can understand exactly what I'm talking about, it's so much easier to sell it,
mhm, mhm.
right?
And that's exactly what I think too, is when you're armed with knowledge and you can express to your client the reasons why something is, or why you're selecting one piece over another piece, and how it suits what their specific project needs. If you're armed with that information, it not only makes you look like the expert, which you are now, but it also gives you that confidence. And when your client feels confident in you, they don't feel the need to kind of, go rogue on you.
Right. Right. That's so key. That's a very key point right there. When the client perceives that you literally know exactly what you're talking about and you're building that feeling of trust with them, it's part of it is just the safety that it's like, oh, this person knows what they're talking about. I'm good here. But what also happens is, even if a person is inclined to maybe get others' opinions or interview other interior designers, they're always going to come back to, but they don't feel as knowledgeable. They don't seem to understand, in depth what it is. And now we're talking about anything, not just
Hmm.
upholstery, but
Right.
in, developing floor plans or doing kitchen remodels, whatever it is. I know that when I have experts that I've hired, I'm thinking of Jude Charles recently. I hired Jude Charles to create the docu-series on, me and the business and the platform and all the things. And, this is a nice investment. It is not an inconsequential investment. And, the Vin man is like, you got to get other quotes for this. And
Hmm.
I remember I literally said to him, I don't think I'm going to find anybody that delivers what he delivers. And he's
Hmm.
like, you got to get other quotes. And so Jude is so, like you said, like you really get that sense of the deep level of what he's going to deliver, that and I did get the other quotes because I have to stay married to the Vin man and I can't just go rogue. And there was nobody that could match the confidence that he instilled in explaining what he was going to deliver. And so it really became irrelevant of the pricing of the other quotes that I got. And that's what I love about this book that you've put together and this course that you've put together, because for a designer to have this really very valuable information and be able to just, like, pull it out of their toolbox is really very good. And so, Richelle, how do you come to know so much about upholstery? You're a full service interior designer and have been, and this is a very specific subspecialty here.
It is. It is. The way that I started, I've always had a bit of a thing for what I call roadkill. Roadkill are really great frames that are exceptionally well made. So they might
Mm.
be antique or they might be vintage, but they have unique lines. They're well made, and I was always dragging home some sort of, curb treasure to the garage, and not knowing what to do with it, but I knew I loved it and I wanted to do something with it. So when furniture flipping started to become a thing, I thought, ooh, no one is doing upholstery. Let's see what I can do. So I started learning upholstery hands on myself. I am not, let me just underscore that, a professional upholsterer. I know where my limits lie, but it helped me learn what I didn't know. So I hired a master upholsterer who had, he'd been doing it his entire life. He had 30 years experience. And I hired a seamstress, the best one I know, my mom,
Oh.
and put together a small upholstery studio where we specialized in restoring vintage seating. So I had a warehouse building with 10,000 square feet. And let me tell you, roadkill is easy to come by. All the different shapes, all the different
Mm.
styles, anything from, the 1920s clear through the 70s and the 80s. And you had the opportunity to see how manufacturing had changed over that period of time, different unique experimental methods of upholstery construction. So the process was someone would come in, pick a frame. Then I had the design center and they'd pick a fabric, one of our beautiful fabrics, and then we would apply the fabric and restore the piece on site. So it was a lot of fun. And then we also did some custom builds. So I have some designs that I've done and we built in-house for clients who, one comes to mind. He was about 6'6", and he wanted a mid-century modern style sectional, but those sit so low. So we took his measurements and customized a piece that was perfectly proportioned to mid-century scale, but fit him and his body perfectly.
Oh,
It's a
isn't that
beautiful piece. I
clever?
love it. I love
That's
it.
so
I love that
clever.
piece.
Yeah, right. Because I can imagine it like beautiful, sleek lines, but low to the
Hmm.
floor. And here he is with his knees in his jaw.
Exactly. Knees to his jaw. Absolutely. But I think the trick was to make sure that everything was in proportion and not just, extending the height so that he wasn't eating his knees. Everything had to be perfectly in proportion.
Wow. Wow. Okay. I love that. I also love it. Sounded like you said in there, clarify for me
Mhm,
that by collecting what you call roadkill is such a cute name
mhm.
for it, by collecting furniture from all different time periods, whether it be the 70s, the 60s, the 20s, you were able to, when in taking it apart, you were
Mhm.
noticing the different techniques of in the craftsmanship of upholstery. Is that what you were saying? Oh,
Exactly.
cool.
Yes, it was so cool to see the evolution of how construction methods have changed. And at the same time, by observing how a piece had worn through generations,
Mm.
you could tell what worked, what didn't work, and why it didn't work. So you really, once you took the fabric off, you could see the skeleton of the frame and see where, for instance, a sinuous spring on a frame would pull it out of square.
Mm.
And I mean, it's just really interesting. And then you go, okay, well, why did this sinuous spring, which is an S spring, pull this frame out of wackadoo? And what
Mm.
do we do to fix it? So it was just kind of interesting to see that in real life.
That's so, you know, what's so funny is I literally can picture you in the studio being, taking it apart, like almost like, doing an autopsy, like what made this
Exactly.
not work or what made this work, right?
And I'd love to read a piece and see how someone was sitting in it and how it wore on that spot. You could almost look at it and go, okay, well, this is where this person put their feet,
Hmm.
or this is where they always sat, and this is how the fabric also wore.
So interesting. It's so funny because unrelated to upholstery, like I just that this is how this person did this. Just whatever it is, different mediums that you come across, and I don't know. I can't think of anything right now other than a cemetery, and that doesn't show how people sit or lived. But um, you know, um, I will walk cemeteries all day long. I just think it's interesting and just to see the different families and the different things, and so it
Hmm.
just reminds me of that in a whole different way, right?
I'd say that's pretty accurate. The way that the chairs were lined up, kind of, up and down. That's a little grim, but yeah, almost like tombstones. But these are going to get extra new life
That's
and new
right. They're
love,
being
which is what I love.
reincarnated.
Exactly.
And during this time, you have the upholstery studio set up, but you are also working as an interior designer. It's not like you're just an upholstery studio. You're doing your full service designs, but this is just this other layer of it, another revenue
Right.
stream or whatever, right?
Well, it was the primary revenue stream, and anyone who has had a retail store knows that it can be pretty much all time consuming
Mm-hmm.
when you're doing all the things. But what was most interesting about it, as opposed to um, interior design, traditional interior design, is that these projects would start with a chair. They
Mm.
would start with a story that was different from my interior design clients that I work with now that I or before I had that story. It would be, oh, I've inherited these great pieces, or oh, my husband really loves mid-century modern, or it would start with that story and then we would build beyond that. So everything started with a chair.
Mm, interesting. So it's
So it
so
was a different
interesting.
approach to the same end goal.
Yes, yes, yeah. It's funny because just the other day, one of my chairman of the boards came to my house for the day because, whether you live locally or you live far away, you have the option of coming to and doing your full day, your 4 full day sessions, Zoom or at my house. And, Shira walked in, and the first thing she saw was an antique chair that we have. And she was like, "Ooh, I love that chair." And I said, that chair's probably about 75 years old. But of course, I had reupholstered it. It was Vinny's mom's chair. And it's
Mhm.
just a beautiful chair. And I have the room is decorated more modern style, but this chair, even though it's 75 years old, has, and it's wood and it's all the things, it has sort of a modern line to it. And then with the contrasting, geometric modern fabric, it really is like, I love it. It's really pretty. And of
Mhm.
course, like you said, it's when somebody's attached to some chair or piece for a reason, is there's not a lot that you won't pay, to get it back up to
Right.
condition, right?
Right, right. There's a sentimental value to it,
Yeah.
and it becomes functional art.
Yeah.
But that's just the way that portion of the story would go. And then there would be clients who had a custom need to
Right.
specifically fit their body. So, of course, we would build whatever they needed on site to,
Mm-hmm.
and it would be a new piece, a new piece.
Right.
So that was fun.
Mm.
I
Yeah,
enjoyed
and
it very
and I
much.
think you tell me your experience, but in my experience at Window Works, the only time that we would say to somebody, this is silly, we're not reupholstering this, is if it wasn't a good quality frame to begin with. Like, we're not taking, a highway store, furniture that you spent, $150 on the chair and reupholstering it. It's like, sweetie, this is going to be $400 to reupholster the $150 chair. And I would always say to them, unless you are emotionally attached to this
Mm.
piece of furniture for some reason, or it literally is the exact size, proportion, all the things that you want, but you understand we're not building on good bones here, right?
Right, right. And that would be part of the question of, is it worth it?
Mm-hmm.
And there's different questions you ask. Is, does it fit a space? Was it custom made for a space? Does it fit your body perfectly?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and does it have sentimental value? There were Frankenstein chairs that we redid that someone's grandpa had made, and we'd find a broom handle inside of it.
Wow.
Just different things to go, wait a minute. But it was incredibly sentimental, and so
Mm-hmm.
that had the additional value, and you can't really put a price tag on that. um, but that's different from new and custom
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
purchasing.
Yeah, and it's funny because for designers that maybe haven't dabbled into reupholstery at all, that is one of the key things to remember. A lot of times, uneducated consumers, meaning they just haven't had any need or experience with it before. I know we get the calls a lot, and they assume that reupholstery is going to be less expensive than purchasing new. And it's almost never the case. And so that's why I like the conversation of upholstery and reupholstery and custom furniture, to your point,
Mm.
because it is a viable, to me, it's like window treatments. If you can educate yourself on window treatments or collaborate with a reputable window treatment partner, it's a huge money add on to your projects. And upholstery and custom furniture can be the same way. It's not
Exactly.
it's not inexpensive. And but to our point, both of us, the sentimental value is there. And unless somebody straight up can't afford it, they're going to reach as far as they can to get that piece, restored
Right.
and into their space again, right?
Right, right. That's true. But I think the thing to really recognize and understand is that it's important to educate your client. So you need to have the knowledge
Mm.
on why this piece may or may not fit their budget. And if they can't have everything right now. Well, what would be a good compromise? So, understanding those construction methods makes it a good compromise to say, okay, we like this particular look. We can't afford the gold standard, what they say the industry gold standard right now, but let's get this other piece which will hold a space for you, and understand that we're going to need to be replacing that in the next 3 to 5 years. So it's understanding the entire gamut of construction methodology so that you can suit your client's budget. But as far as the pricing goes, the little analogy I love to use, for people who would say, well, gosh, I could buy cheaper for that. And
Right.
it's like, yes, yes, of course you can. But let's think about a baker, somebody's making cupcakes. You have cupcake maker and they're cranking out, 30 chocolate, 6 dozen chocolate. Put the chocolate frosting on it. Boom, boom, boom. It's easy. We're only making chocolate. Now you want them to do chocolate with vanilla. Okay, great. Now let's do chocolate with vanilla. Some have strawberry frosting, some have sprinkles. So the more add-ons you add, you increase the labor and that attention to detail. So if you have to stop and make one cupcake that's strawberry frosting with only blue sprinkles, it's going to take time to pick out the pink and yellow, etc. So there's more opportunity for mishap,
Mhm.
things that could go wrong in the custom process. There's more eyeballs that need to be on it. There's more start and stops. You have to clean out the machine, etc. So that's why when you're mass manufacturing something, they can just crank it out. Boom, 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 boom. It doesn't require a lot of eyeballs on the situation. That's why mass manufactured anything is less expensive. But if you have to basically make a custom piece, it requires start, stop, pay attention to the details, look at all the things, and a much higher skill set.
I love it. It's such a great analogy. You're 100% on the money with that. And so in your so your book right now is only available when you purchase your self-paced downloadable course, and it's called Upholstery Uncovered. And
Right.
so run us through some of the maybe the top level topics that are covered in the book and the course and the companion book.
Well, the companion book is designed so that you can take notes as you're going along the videos, each video. So we have a different topic section. We starts just like you're building an upholstered frame. It starts with the foundation, which is the frame, the wood, and it compares and contrasts um, engineered plywood with your different hardwoods, your softwoods, how that frame is built, how that frame starts. And basically a frame is a box. So you have your box at the of you know where your springs sit, and then you have your different arms, your different legs, your different backs. And then we go into the spring up system and your foundations, which is your springs, your padding, your webbing, the things that hold the frame together. And then we go into cushions, and there's some discussion on different types of foam, different types of seating materials, and how they affect your seating experience, and your different layers, your dacron, your cotton, etc. And then we have two sections on fabric. One is textiles, fiber construction, how cotton varies from mohair, varies from inside out, Krypton, which is a performance fabric. We talk about performance fabrics a lot. And then the final one is my favorite, which is custom application, which is how to make sure that what you envision a piece is going to look at like when you are designing it is how it's going to come out in the end. So say for instance you are thinking of adding stripes or plaid, and you don't know that that fabric is going to be run on the bias on your welt, but you think everything is supposed to match everything everywhere.
Mm.
So how does that piece look if you have your bias on the welt with a striped fabric? What is a good solution? Maybe you should do a contrasting fabric. Maybe if you're working specifically with a workroom, you could run it a particular way. Why you want to use bias welt in one place and why it's okay to go up the roll in another. Where does that work and where does it not work?
It's so good. I mean, like I said, just having sold a reupholstery and custom upholstery, much more reupholstery, by the way, but over the years, really, that's why I was so impressed, because I've done it, but I've done it with not nearly in depth of knowledge that you provide in here. And I like, you know, I the example of the bias welt with a stripe, I literally had that last year. This one gentleman, his wife passed about 5 or 6, 7 years ago, and so he's you know, the guy that he's a really super nice guy, super successful, and he feels like he should get certain little projects done in the house to keep the house up. But he's sort of like, LuAnn, so here's the 5 dining room, 6 dining room chairs I want to do. What kind of fabric should I do on it? Or he's mostly like, this is the fabric that my wife had on the chairs. Find me the closest thing I need to reupholster them. Like he
Yeah.
just, you know, he knows it needs to be upkept, but he doesn't really want to change what she's done. And so we've developed a nice relationship over the last, 8, 10 years, whatever it is. And one time, it was just this past year, it was a stripe. And, my goodness, the guy must have 20 dining room chairs. I think we've done. I don't know what goes on in the house, because he always delivers them to us, and he always picks them back up himself, because I don't know why. It's like the only person that does that. But anyway, he sends a picture by email the next day. He's like, oh, the stripe is not lining up on the, cord thingy. And I'm like, yeah, it's not supposed to line up on the cord thingy. That's a bias stripe, right? And so I had to go out and, get the different pictures and show him, several examples that this is the standard and this is the way it should be done. And the way his piece was to turn the corners, the stripe would have gone off anyway. And so you're better off the stripe being off on purpose than being all lined up until it can't be lined up. But it was a learning lesson for me. And I thought, here you are. You're 39, 40 years in the business here, and you sold upholstery with a double welt, with a stripe pattern, and you didn't say, hey, let me show you this before I make it for you,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my favorite segment of the entire thing. So you can manage that expectation, and people just really have it in their minds that certain angles are supposed to match up. But you're taking a two-dimensional object,
Yeah.
which is fabric. It's two-dimensional, and you're trying to apply it to a three-dimensional frame. So because there's curves and blooming on the inside back where it comes up, it's never ever 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 going to
Right.
match because of that. So as a designer, you need to be able to read that frame and look at it and go, okay, this particular fabric, whether I'm reupholstering it or I'm selecting a custom a fabric for, one of our favorite trade vendors to use, you need to be able to recognize how that is going to look, because sometimes you see these beautiful fabrics and you lay them all out on your plan, but it looks completely different when it's applied to that three-dimensional frame. And that becomes a design in and of itself. So you really kind of have to put all those moving parts together. And let me just say, people are weird about their upholstery in a way that they are not weird about a coffee table.
You're so right. I'm laughing just thinking back my experiences over the years. It's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have to express it to them on the front end.
Right.
So,
Well, and that was the thing. And I know that was a situation where I got lucky because of our relationship. Do you know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yes. He could have he could have just said, okay, you proved it to me that this is the best way to do it, but I didn't expect that, and I don't like it. I would have rather a solid, like to your point, right? What would I have done? I would have had to take it apart and put it back on again because I didn't explain it ahead of time. And so, or he could have just given me a hard time about it, not wanted to pay. But we know each other. We have that kind of relationship where I'm sort of quasi like his. Would my wife like this? I think she would. Relationship.
Right. Well, and that makes a whole question on you always want to keep that warm and fuzzy with your client.
Yeah.
But if you present something and you do it and you have it made up, who pays for it if it goes in a way that the client doesn't like? So either A, you just say, that's the way it is. this is how it is, and you're just going to take it and you're going to like it and you're going to live with it for the next 20 years, that is not a warm and fuzzy.
That
You
is
can be
not a good
guaranteed that
plan.
they're not going to recommend you to their friends.
Right.
They're going to look at the welt on that and every single day be agitated about it.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, I agree. That, you know what you just said right there, 100%. We've said 1,000 times at Window Works, even here at LuAnn Inc., certain things that we're just like, is it worth? You know what I always say. You've heard me say it 1,000 times. Do I want to be right, or do I want to get what I want? And that is literally the epitome of that. Knowing that, technically that is gold standard construction to have the bias welt all day long. Great, LuAnn, you're right. But to have a client, like you said, look at it every day and just think, I just don't get this. I don't know why this stripe is going, on the angle and the other part is going on the straight. It makes me crazy. So what did I get? I didn't get what I want, which what I want is a happy client who's going to refer me and come back. Right. And so, yeah. So, but I love that how your book and your course really do help you prepare for all of that. And so, it's to be armed with the knowledge. And what was funny was I ultimately, just so you know, the other saving grace that I just remembered was part of the equation. He originally sent me a picture by email because he always enters by email. Hey, LuAnn, blah, blah, blah. It's so-and-so. I have 4 more chairs or 3 more chairs or 8 more chairs that I want to do. And he sends the picture. And in his picture, his original striped fabric was on the bias. He just never noticed it before. So that also was very helpful when I thought to go look at his original chairs.
Right. I mean, and this is true for whether you're reupholstering or ordering custom,
ordering new,
with a
right?
with a trade vendor. I mean, our reps and trade vendors, they are so busy and so backlogged right now that it's really, in all honesty, it is not their place to manage whether we as designers know how this is applied. So you're going to place an order. You're going to say, hey, I want ABC. They're going to apply ABC. And you didn't realize that B came out sideways. And it's not, frankly, it's not their job to really do that. Some vendors will go above and beyond and kind of walk you through it and let you know, did you mean for it to look like this? But that's a rarity.
Yeah.
And you're going to get what you get, and it's going to show up at your receiver, and you're going to go, did not know that. Did not think about that.
Exactly.
And then you have to tap dance and sell it to your client that, oh, I knew it all along. I knew this is exactly how it was supposed to be.
Said no designer ever.
Uh-huh.
No, I get it. 100%. I love it. So this course, as we mentioned a few moments ago, is something that designers can purchase online, download, and you send them the book and really go through it. And we will make sure we will put the links in the show notes. You can just click on it and go right to Richelle's website and sign up and purchase the course. Now, we have exciting news for everybody that you are also going to teach a different course that's companion to this sort. It's really just leaning into more of your expertise in this area for LuAnn University. You're going to teach a 3-hour intensive course, and this course is, how to sell custom upholstery to your clients when they can't sit on it, right?
Exactly. Now we've kind of touched on it previously. My Upholstery Uncovered is what I like to call it's a broad course. So we touch on all the basic elements of upholstery, but this one really dives very deep into when you can't sit on it. And I think that is one of the biggest hurdles and obstacles designers have with their clients. And I see so many Facebook posts about, well, how does this piece sit? Well, how does that piece sit? Well, you can't do that. And that makes me nuts when I see that in different forums. But it depends on, is it a bench seat? Is it a 3-seater? Is it a 2-seater? And it goes beyond what exactly the material inside the cushion is. So the fabric affects it. So really, when you're working with a client and you're creating custom upholstery, they can't sit on it, even if you took them to a showroom. it is not going to be the same experience. It is not.
Right.
So you have to really encourage them to understand what you're creating for your client is the difference between buying a suit off pennies, which is a great value. Just buy it off the rack and however it fits is however it fits versus going to a tailor and having something specifically custom built just for them.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that you do that is by measuring your client's body and the ergonomics to how they're going to use it. Are they going to be sitting? Is this a proper parlor space? Are they wanting this space just for show, or do they need to lay down? Do they have special needs, like are they elderly and or have hip issues and they need to be able to get in and out of the chair? Do they want to watch movies in it? Do they, want to knit? Different things. Do they want
Right.
to nap in it? So once you have a good understanding about what your client's needs are for that upholstered piece in that space, it basically designs itself, which
Mm.
that's the cool thing is you ask all the questions and those questions are going to be included in the course and it basically designs the piece for itself. So almost like a flow chart. Do you want to nap in the chair? Okay, that's great. We need ABC for a design. Do you want three cushions because your kids always fight on the couch and everybody wants their own space and you have to have, one tush per cush, so that your kids don't fight.
That's
So it's
great.
just real life things like that to find out. And how does that affect your seating experience?
I just love as you said, it's a deep dive. I just love the levels that you go into it, and that just when you read off those questions, it's funny because I'm thinking of the different pieces of upholstery that I have that are my quote unquote spot in our two houses. And I'm like, yeah, like I wish somebody would have asked me that about that sofa, right? Because you're
Mm-hmm.
right, sitting down in a chair or a sofa to do something, to your point, knit or visit with people, because that's the more formal space, is a completely different experience than I want to like slink back and watch Bosch with the Vin Man on Netflix. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
Exactly.
Right. And to just ask the question, how does this sit? It's like, well, it sits like this, but are you sitting or slumping? You know?
Right. And one person's tush is different from another.
Right.
So when you're crowdsourcing and asking it, just because your friend liked the way it sat and they just said, oh, it sits great. Well, they may be 6'2". Your
Mm,
client may be 5 foot tall.
mm.
So to just ask that blanket question, you know,
Yeah, it's silly.
it
It's
it's
useless,
so
really.
subjective.
Yeah.
It is so subjective and
It's
it
kind of
really
like,
means nothing.
right. And it's kind of like saying, what's a good mattress, right?
Hmm.
It,
Right.
when you're the way you're describing it, it reminds me of that. Well, are you a back sleeper, a side sleeper, a stomach sleeper? Do you like it
Hmm.
hard? Do you like it soft? Do you like it cold? Do you like a feather topper? Like well, here's 20 mattresses that are good mattresses, depending on what you like, right?
Right, right. Or a running shoe.
Yes. Oh my goodness, I've worn this same running shoe for like 20 years because when
Because
you,
your arch fits just a
that's it.
particular way and it laces up perfectly on your instep and you've got to, yeah. But if you were to just ask in a running forum, what
Right.
shoe works for you? Well, I
Right.
like the Brooks. Well, I like the, whatever, da 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 da. So
Exactly.
it's completely subjective.
I love it. And
And people
so,
only look from their own perspective.
right, right. So, in the Lu University intensive, when a designer comes to this class, tell us who it's ideal for, or what stage. Who do you think would, like, if this is you, you're gonna love this,
Well, I think if you source upholstery, you're going to love it.
right?
I know
Right.
that's kind of
Well,
broad,
but no,
but
it's true. It's like if you're looking to source upholstery and do it confidently, right? And have the expertise on what the heck you're talking about, right?
right,
Right?
right,
Okay, and
right.
then talk to us about, as a result, what I love you explained to me that as a result, so now you sell one piece confidently. Like, talk to us about that
Mm,
result of
mhm.
having been
What
in the
that looks
class.
like in your pocketbook, is that
Yeah,
what you're asking?
that's where we
Okay.
want it.
So some of our younger designers, who aren't yet confident and haven't stepped their foot into custom upholstery yet, I get asked this a lot. Um, a lot of them will go to the retail stores, and they will use that as a showroom, or whatever. There are quite a few retail stores available, and their clients want to sit on it. And again, we have the whole situation that you can't really sit. If you're changing even the fabric, it's not going to be the same. So they will purchase or have their client purchase from that retail store. You might get, I don't know, $300 something, and you're lucky if you get paid for your time to take them to said retail store. So let's say you've got about $300 in your pocket and you have 10 pieces that you sold. You just got $3,000 ish from that purchase. Now, let's say you're working with a custom, one of our trade vendors, and maybe you have a stocking dealer, maybe you don't, which is a whole other topic. And I know you're going to work on that with in the LuAnn University.
Right, with Tracy Connell.
Exactly. But once you start doing that and you have your average margins, you are going to really explode your profit margin with your upholstery, because you can make 40, 42-ish, between 40, 45, whatever your personal business model is, margin on a piece. And if you do the math on, $3,500 or $5,000, which I think is closer to the current average for a trade piece, and then you sell 10 pieces, math that one out.
Right. I mean, so what it is basically many are, whether they're seasoned or beginning, whether they're beginning and they're in the retail stores, or even they're seasoned and feel like their client won't purchase if the client can't sit on it. They feel like they won't recommend a trade source if they haven't been able to get to High Point or Vegas market or any other market to sit on it. And what you're saying is the translation is anything that is keeping you from selling, we hope, trade furniture, but any furniture, because the client hasn't been able to sit on it, or you haven't been able to sit on it, you are leaving money on the table. And by taking this course, you're going to be able to do that. So if you have a trade source that you've never been to, or you've been to and you've sat in it, but your client can't, and now the client is saying, I'm not going to buy that trade source. And now you're left where you're forced to sell a retail, quote unquote, forced, or the client insists retail because they can sit on it. By the time you're done this 3-hour intensive, you're going to be able to confidently explain and know which type of furniture is best for your client, and be able to source it through trade, make more money, and not worry that they couldn't put their tush in it, right?
In a nutshell, that was perfect. That was perfect. The only other thing I wanted to add is that it's still incredibly valuable as a designer to go to High Point,
Yes,
go to our professional shows, and do visit every single vendor that you can, especially if you want to figure out, here's this price point. I need a few of these types of vendors under my belt within my repertoire that I'm going to work towards stocking dealer with. And that way you can get a feel for the vibe of the showroom. You can see how things are finished in person. You can just kind of make sure that particular vendor vibes with your business model, because what works for my business may not work for your business.
Right. No,
And
I love
it's
that
important
advice.
to really have that understanding of, did you have a good feeling when you work with this vendor? Because it's a relationship, and ideally you want to have a good solid relationship with your upholstery vendor, because should something happen, that rep, it works for you, and they will have your back in most instances because you have that working relationship with them.
I love it. Such great advice. I agree that there's no downside to going to the different markets. To me, it's like conferences. I've said it 1,000 times. I have one goal when I go to any conference. I want to come out with one new idea, one aha moment, one way to think about the same thing that I've been thinking about for a gabillion years in a different way. That's
Mhm.
it. That's it. And it could come from a conversation that I have at lunch, or it could come from one of the speakers or one of the workshops. I don't really care as long as I come out with a new way to do something in my business or to do something better in my business. And so going to High Point to me is that same sort of thing. It's like the value could be in creating a relationship with a vendor. The value could be seeing the finishes in the furniture. The value could be a seminar you attend. The value could be meeting a designer that you click with that now you become besties with and you can be accountability partners.
Mhm.
There's just no downside, right? I mean, look at me and you. We've met each
Right.
other several times at Vegas Market, High Point Market, and you develop a relationship of that. It starts with hi, and then it's hi, how are you? Oh, it's good to see you again. And next thing you know, you're like having dinner together and
You
you're
have
telling
a
me about a
dinner.
book. And I'm like, okay, we got to get you on the
Exactly.
show.
Yeah, well, that was fun. That was a good dinner.
That was a good dinner. Oh my goodness. Well, Richelle, I am just so grateful for you, for your friendship in my life, and for this expertise that you're bringing to your own course and also to LuAnn University. Two very different courses, certainly stackable, companionable courses to just increase your knowledge about upholstery and reupholstery both, and so that you can increase the profitability of your design firm. So you're doing a great service for your colleagues, and I thank you for coming on today and sharing all of it.
Well, I'm so excited to be here. And let me just say, as someone who listened to you, 3 years ago, I feel so thrilled and it's a little surreal to be here. And it's exciting. And now I'm a big girl now.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad we finally did it too.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you.
You're welcome. Richelle has always had an interest in what she called, and I just love this, upholstery roadkill. What a clever way to describe it. But, it was so nice to learn how, she saw an opportunity. She hired a master upholsterer. She hired her mom as a seamstress, and they went to work, and she started specializing in reupholstery. And, of course, her passion for upholstery is evident. Richelle has learned how by analyzing the wear in a furniture piece to tell how the piece was sat on and to figure out if it will be a fit for the next person. This is when you do your homework, right? This is when you are paying attention and learning the lessons around you. And to learn how a client expects to be in the piece is another aspect of it that I love that she pointed out. Do you expect to be in this piece sitting upright, lounging, lying, right? Lying down, right? And then she takes it a step further and combining this information with their height and weight and all the things. And what she says is, when you do all of this, the sit test becomes less important. And in fact, I never thought about this before, but I know one of the big reasons that many of you go to High Point Market or Dallas or Las Vegas is so that you can, quote unquote, sit test furniture. But Richelle made me think. Imagine, if you've met Michelle in real life, she's all about 5'0" and I don't think she's 100 pounds soaking wet. So when she was talking, I was like, right, what good does it do a designer like Richelle to sit test a piece of furniture if the client that she's shopping for is 5'10" and 200 pounds? We're talking about 10 inches difference in height and 100 pounds different in weight, right? The average person is going to be probably that much different to her. So it's kind of crazy when you actually think about it, that it's sort of an exercise in futility, right? But it proves Richelle's point that in order to properly guide your client, you need to understand the ergonomics of upholstery, the construction of the frame, the cushions, the shapes, and the styles that are better for task, for relaxing, for larger people, smaller people, all the things. And everything that you learn about this can be applied to reupholstery furniture roadkill or specifying custom new furniture, right? So the good news is I still 100% endorse and encourage you to go to market. You want to see the quality of the pieces too, right? How the seams are done and all the things. You want to also just see all the other products at market, lighting, case goods, rugs, all that. And let's not forget all the educational programming, right? But all of a sudden it made me realize sit test not so much. But for sit test, you should do two things. You should sign up through Richelle directly to take her Upholstery Uncovered course. All right. And then piggyback this with her new course, Close More Upholstered Furniture Sales, No Sit Test Required, which she is teaching at LuAnn University this fall. Yes, that's right. Fall 2022. We are introducing this new course, Close More Upholstered Furniture Sales, No Sit Test Required. Richelle's proprietary course, which encompasses her book, Upholstery Uncovered, teaches you about the inside of upholstery, how to determine the quality, how to understand specifying the proper fabric for the best results, about double rubs and Weizenbeek codes and all the things. Okay, that's one set of information and knowledge that's important and valuable to know. And then at her course at LuAnn University, Close More Upholstered Furniture Sales, No Sit Test Required, she's going to teach you the actionable expertise you need to specify with confidence and clarity upholstered furniture so that you know what you're talking about. So here are some of the things that she's going to cover in the LuAnn University course. Various cushion configurations and how they compare or contrast in seating experience. Custom material for seats and backs and how they affect support and comfort. Ergonomics in seating, standard proportions and adjustments for clients who are smaller, larger, elderly, or other abled. Comparing upholstery styles and designs from an ergonomic perspective, right? Not just from the pretty, but from an actual practical perspective. Client seating questionnaire you're going to get as part of this course, and then measuring your client for their project and how to match those numbers with a built furniture frame. All right, so understanding what measurements to take about your clients that you need, and then how to match those numbers with a built frame. And finally, she includes a scavenger hunt, your homework assignment to interview people and then find specific pieces that would be right for them. All right, so maybe you are currently selling retail furniture. Let's say on the average, when I say retail furniture, I mean retail furniture, because you are having a little anxiety around selling upholstered furniture. So let's say on the average, a sofa, 2 chairs, and an ottoman, your selling price is approximately $12,000, and your 15% cut from the realtor, you make $1,800. So you're out there selling retail because you feel like it's very important that your clients sit on the furniture and you're nervous about specifying it. So with this sort of model, if you sell 10 projects a year like this, you make 18 grand, right? So you're selling retail, you're making 15% for the retailer, and your average profit is 1,800. So if you do it 10 times a year, you're making 18 grand. But let's say after taking this course, you now have the knowledge and the confidence to source custom upholstery, or, dare I say it, have your own furniture designed and made by a local upholsterer. Okay, so let's be honest. One of the reasons that you're selling retail is because your client is insisting on sitting everything, and you don't have that information or confidence or expertise to push back on this, right? So let's use the same $12,000 selling price. But because you're now not selling retail, you now are selling at wholesale, and you earn $5,400 on the $12,000 sale. Now multiply this by 10 projects. That's $54,000 of profit. Okay? $54,000 versus 18. This is profit earned at no additional cost attached. Your time is the same. Your delivery, the install, you're charging all the same things for them. You simply just earned $36,000 a year more doing the same work, but doing it smarter than you did last year. Think about what you can do with this extra $36,000. You can hire a bookkeeper, a business coach, a social media consultant. You can invest in a new website, or you could take a dream vacation to Bali, for crying out loud. Right? So between Richelle's own course, Upholstery Uncovered, and her LuU course, Close More Upholstered Furniture Sales, No Sit Test Required, you can, without huge changes to your process, dramatically affect your earnings this year. Right? So I encourage you to do both of these courses. They are specifically designed by Richelle to complement each other. And of course, you can do one without the other. They stand alone. They 100% stand alone. She designed them that way. So that you can do it that way. But together, they deliver everything you need to be the expert in the room, the way that your clients expect you to be. So for info on Richelle's course, go to the show notes. And for info on her LuAnn University course, go to LuAnnUniversity.com. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And I think what I really want you to do is take away from it how you can dramatically impact the profitability of your business by locking this down, right? All right. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of LuAnn Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or LuAnn University, go to LuAnnNiagara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to WindowWorksNJ.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.